The space station Harmony Point floated in the dark void between two solar systems. It was a neutral ground, built by 12 different alien races to host meetings and trade talks. Today, it would witness something that would change the galaxy, forever. Ambassador David Ross adjusted his formal blue uniform as he walked through the station's main corridor. His footsteps echoed on the metal floor. Behind him, 2 human security guards followed at a respectful distance. Ross was nervous, but he didn't show it. He had been a diplomat for 20 years. This was just another meeting. "Sir," the Velcan. "Delegation is already in the main hall," said Lieutenant Barnes, one of his guards. Barnes was young, maybe 25, with sharp eyes that never stopped watching for danger. "Good," Ross replied. "The sooner we start, the sooner we can go home." Ross carried a small briefcase in his left hand. Inside were the documents that could bring peace between Earth and the Velcan Empire. The treaty was fair. Earth would keep its current colonies and the Velcans would have their territory. Trade routes would be shared. No one would attack anyone else. It seemed simple enough. The main hall of Harmony Point was huge. A massive dome overhead showed the stars outside. Alien species from across the galaxy had come to watch this historic meeting. The reptilian Altarians sat in one section. The insect-like hive queens buzzed quietly in another. Everyone knew this was important. At the center of the hall stood a raised platform. On one side sat the human delegation, just Ross and his 2 guards. On the other side sat the Velcans. The Velcans were not pleasant to look at. They stood 8 feet tall with thick gray skin that looked like stone. Their faces had no nose, just 2 slits for breathing. Their eyes glowed red in the dim light. Each Velcan wore heavy armor decorated with the bones of their enemies. War Prime Thok was their leader. He was bigger than the others, with scars covering his face and arms. Those scars were marks of honor in Velcan culture. The more scars you had, the more battles you had won. "Ambassador Ross," Thok spoke in broken English. His voice was like grinding rocks. "You bring treaty?" "Yes, War Prime," Ross replied politely. He opened his briefcase and pulled out the documents. "This agreement will benefit both our peoples. Trade, peace, and mutual respect." Thok looked at the papers but didn't touch them. Instead, he stood up slowly. His armor made loud clanking sounds as he moved. "Humans think they are smart," Thok said loudly so everyone in the hall could hear. "You think words on paper mean something. You think we care about your weak ideas." Ross felt his heart skip a beat. This wasn't going as planned. "War Prime, surely we can discuss—" "No," Thok roared. The sound echoed through the hall. "There is nothing to discuss. Humans are weak. You send one old man with papers instead of warriors. This shows us what you really are." Lieutenant Barnes stepped forward, his hand moving toward his weapon. "Sir, I think we should leave." But it was too late. Thok pulled out a massive curved blade from his belt. The weapon was 3 feet long and covered in strange alien writing. The other Velcans stood up as well, all drawing their weapons. "In Velcan culture," Thok announced to the watching crowd, "we have a saying. Words are for the weak. Action is for the strong. Today, I will show the galaxy what happens to those who think they can bargain with the Velcan Empire." Ross raised his hands. "Please, there's no need for violence. We can work this out." "Violence?" Thok laughed, a horrible sound like breaking glass. "This is not violence. This is a lesson." The alien spectators began to murmur nervously. Some started to leave their seats. The Altarian Elder Voss stood up and spoke in his deep, wise voice. "War Prime Thok, this breaks all laws of diplomatic immunity. Ambassador Ross is here under the protection of—" "Silence!" Thok pointed his blade at the Elder. "Your ancient laws mean nothing. Today, new rules begin." Ross looked around desperately. The exit was too far away. His guards were outnumbered, 10 to 1. The other alien species watched but did nothing. They were here to observe, not to fight. "My death will not bring you what you want," Ross said quietly. "Earth will not surrender because you kill one man." Thok smiled, showing teeth like broken glass. "Earth will surrender when they see what we do to those who oppose us." Your people are soft. They live in comfort and safety. They have never known real war. One taste of Velcan strength and they will beg for mercy. You don't understand, Ross said, his voice steady despite his fear. You don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing, Thok replied. I'm ending this charade. The blade came down fast. Lieutenant Barnes and Sergeant Cole, Ross's other guard, tried to help, but the Velcans were too quick and too strong. Within seconds, it was over. The hall fell completely silent. Ambassador David Ross, Earth's first interstellar diplomat, lay still on the cold metal floor. His briefcase had fallen open, and the peace treaty papers scattered in the artificial wind from the station's air system. Thok cleaned his blade on a piece of cloth and put it back in his belt. He looked around the hall at all the shocked alien faces. Let this be a message to all who watch, he declared. The Velcan Empire does not negotiate. We take what we want. Earth has been warned. The Velcan delegation marched out of the hall, their heavy boots echoing like thunder. The alien spectators sat in stunned silence. Many had lived for hundreds of years and had never seen anything like this. Elder Voss of the Altarians slowly walked to where Ross lay. He knelt down and gently closed the human's eyes. Foolish Velcans, he whispered to himself. You have no idea what you have just awakened. In the station's communication center, the news was already being broadcast across the galaxy. Every human, colony, every Earth outpost, every ship in space received the same message. Ambassador David Ross was dead, murdered during a peace negotiation. The message reached Earth 12 hours later. Thok thought he had sent a message of strength and fear. Instead, he had lit a fire that would burn across the galaxy. The Velcans had made their first and final mistake. They had killed Earth's ambassador, and now they would learn why humans were the only species that brought their wars with them to the stars. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when you awakened a sleeping giant. The news hit Earth like a lightning bolt. President Maria Santos was eating breakfast in the White House when her emergency phone rang. The red phone only rang for one reason: a crisis that could threaten all of humanity. Madam President, came the voice of Defense Secretary Tom Bradley. His voice was shaking. We need you in the Situation Room immediately. It's about Ambassador Ross. Santos put down her coffee cup. Something in Bradley's tone made her stomach turn cold. What happened? Ma'am, he's dead. The Velcans killed him during the peace talks. They broadcast it live to the entire galaxy. The president sat in silence for 5 seconds. Then she stood up, her face turning hard as stone. Get me every world. Leader on secure line. Now. Within 1 hour, something happened that had never occurred in human history. Every major leader on Earth was connected on the same call. Presidents, prime ministers, kings, chancellors, all of them together for the first time ever. The conversation was short. They killed our ambassador, Santos said simply. They murdered him in cold blood while he was trying to make peace. What do we do? Asked Prime Minister Robert Chen of the European Federation. We show them what happens when you attack humanity, replied President Viktor Kozlov of the Russian Republic. For the first time in centuries, Earth spoke with one voice. Every nation, every government, every military force would work together. The old enemies became allies in a single moment. General Marcus Webb was called from his retirement home in Colorado. At 65, Webb had fought in the last major Earth conflicts before the Great Peace. He was the only human alive who understood large-scale warfare. General Webb, President Santos said over the video call, we need you to lead our response. Webb looked at the screen with tired eyes. He had hoped never to see war again. Madam President, I need to know, are we talking about a police action or total war? They killed our ambassador on live television, Santos replied. What do you think? Webb nodded slowly. Then I'll need full authority over all military forces on Earth and in the colonies. I'll need every factory, every shipyard, every resource we have. You have it. Webb walked to his old study and opened a safe he hadn't touched in 20 years. Inside were plans, secret military projects that Earth had developed just in case humanity ever faced an alien threat. The politicians had called it paranoia. Webb had called it Preparation. The first project was codenamed Fortress Earth. Within hours, massive orbital defense platforms that had been disguised as space stations began revealing their true nature. Weapons that could destroy entire fleets emerged from hidden bays. Shield generators that could protect whole continents came online. The second project was Ghost Fleet, hidden in asteroid belts and behind moons. Secret shipyards had been building warships for 50 years. These weren't exploration vessels or cargo ships. These were pure weapons of war, designed by humans who remembered what it meant to fight. For survival, Admiral Kate Morgan received a call at the Luna Naval Base. She was Earth's youngest admiral, only 42 years old, but she had the respect of every officer in the fleet. "Admiral," came Webb's voice, "I need you to bring our people home." "Sir?" "Every human colony, every outpost, every mining station. Bring them all back to Earth's protection. We're about to have visitors, and they won't be friendly." Morgan understood. Immediately. Within hours, the largest evacuation in human history began. Transport ships that had been carrying cargo suddenly switched to carrying people. Civilian vessels were pressed into service. The scattered children of Earth came home, but not everyone ran. On the mining world of New Haven, Colony Administrator Bill Jackson received the evacuation order. He looked at the message for a long moment, then deleted it. "Chief," he called to his security head, a tough woman named Lisa Rodriguez. "How many people want to leave?" Rodriguez checked her list. "About half, sir. The other half want to stay and fight." Jackson nodded. "Then we stay and fight. Send a message to Earth. Tell them New Haven stands ready." Similar messages came from dozens of colonies. Humans who had never seen war, who had lived peaceful lives among the stars, suddenly found a fighting spirit they didn't know they had. On Earth itself, the transformation was incredible to watch. Factories that made cars began making tanks. Shipyards that built cruise ships started building destroyers. Citizens who had never held weapons lined up at recruiting stations. Dr. Sarah Kim, Earth's lead scientist, received a visit from General Webb himself. "Doctor," Webb said, "I need to know about Project Deep Strike." Kim's face went pale. Deep Strike was humanity's most secret weapon project. Technology that could move ships across vast distances instantly. It had been theoretical until now. "General, the tests have been successful, but we've never tried it on a large scale. How large could we go?" "With the right power source, maybe an entire fleet." Webb smiled grimly. "Then we're about to find out what happens when humans bring their entire military across the galaxy in the blink of an eye." The Velcans, meanwhile, celebrated their victory. War Prime Thok held a great feast in his palace on the Velcan homeworld. His generals praised him for showing strength to the weak humans. "They will surrender within days," declared General Krex. "No species can stand against Velcan power. The humans are probably crying and begging for mercy right now," laughed another general. Thok raised his cup of victory wine. "Today we showed the galaxy that the Velcan Empire fears no one. Soon we will rule from one end of space to the other." None of them noticed the small probe that drifted past their homeworld. It looked like space junk, but it was actually Earth's most advanced spy satellite. It recorded everything: the celebration, the military positions, the weaknesses in their defenses. Back on Earth, Webb watched the footage with cold eyes. "They're celebrating," reported his intelligence chief, Colonel Park. "Good," Webb replied. "Let them celebrate. It will make what comes next even more shocking." The president's voice came over the intercom. "General, the world leaders are ready for your briefing." Webb straightened his uniform and walked to the Global Command Center. On screens around the room, he could see the faces of every major leader on Earth. Behind them stood their military commanders, all waiting for orders. "Ladies and gentlemen," Webb began, "they wanted to send us a message. Now we're going to send them one. By the time we're finished, every species in the galaxy will understand why humans are different." He pressed a button, and holographic displays showed the secret fleets, the hidden weapons, the sleeping giant that Earth had become. Operation Awakening begins now. Across human space, warships that had waited in darkness for decades powered up their engines. The most dangerous species, in the galaxy was finally ready to show what they could do. Elder Voss of the Altarian Collective had lived for 800 years. He had seen the rise and fall of empires, the birth of new species among the stars, and the end of countless wars. But he had never seen anything like what the humans were doing. 3 weeks had passed since the battle at New Geneva. In that time, Velcan fleets had attacked 12 human colonies. They expected easy victories. Instead, they found nightmares. At Alpha Station, humans had turned the entire asteroid mining facility into a weapon. When the Velcans approached, the humans launched the asteroids themselves at the enemy ships. Rocks moving at incredible speeds became missiles that no armor could stop. At New Tokyo Colony, the humans had vanished completely. The Velcans landed expecting to find a surrendered population. Instead, they found empty buildings filled with traps. Explosions followed the Velcan. Soldiers everywhere they went. Snipers picked them off from hidden positions. The humans had turned their own colony into a death maze. Most disturbing of all was what happened at Darwin Station. The Velcans arrived to find the human colonists still there, working normally. But when the Velcans landed, every human, men, women, even children, picked up weapons and fought. They fought in their homes, in their streets, in their schools. They never surrendered, never retreated, never stopped fighting until the last one fell. The galaxy watched these battles with growing horror. Other species fought for territory, for resources, for honor. Humans seemed to fight for something else, entirely, something that made them willing to die rather than lose. Elder Voss decided he needed to understand. He requested a meeting with Earth's leadership. The meeting took place on a neutral station called Haven Point. Elder Voss arrived, with a small delegation of peaceful representatives from various species. General Webb came with Admiral Morgan and a single aide. General Webb, Elder Voss began, his ancient voice filled with concern. The galaxy is watching your war with great worry. We have never seen such intensity and conflict before. Webb looked at the alien elder with steady eyes. Elder Voss, with respect, you've never seen humans fight before. That is precisely what concerns us, interrupted Ambassador Rel of the Hive Queens. Your species fights in ways we do not understand. You turn defeat into victory, death into weapon. This is not normal. Admiral Morgan leaned forward. Normal for who? You species achieved peace by giving up your ability to fight. We achieved peace by becoming so good at fighting that no one wanted to fight us anymore. Explain, Elder Voss requested. General Webb stood and activated a holographic display. It showed Earth's history, thousands of years of constant warfare. Humans fighting humans with swords, guns, bombs, and nuclear weapons. Every other species in the galaxy had to choose, Webb said calmly. Evolve past violence to reach the stars or destroy yourselves. We chose a third option. We took our violence with us. The alien representatives watched the display in silence. Images flashed by. Ancient battles, world wars, tactical innovations that had turned killing into an art form. For thousands of years, Webb continued, humans fought each other. We learned every possible way to wage war. Ground combat, naval warfare, air superiority, space battles, psychological warfare, guerrilla tactics, siegecraft, espionage. We studied war the way you species study science. Elder Voss felt a chill run through his ancient bones. And now you use these skills against the Velcans. No, Webb said quietly. Now we use a tiny fraction of these skills. The Velcans think, they've seen human warfare, they've seen us playing with them. Ambassador Rel's insect-like features showed confusion. Playing? Admiral Morgan pulled up another display. It showed massive ships hidden throughout human space, vessels larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The ships fighting the Velcans are our patrol craft, she explained. Our destroyers and cruisers. We haven't used our battleships yet. We certainly haven't used our planet killers. Planet killers, Elder Voss whispered. Weapons designed to end entire worlds, Webb said matter-of-factly. We built them during our Cold War period, when 2 human nations had enough nuclear weapons to destroy Earth 10 times over. We kept building better ones just in case. The alien delegates sat in stunned silence, The idea of weapons that could destroy planets was beyond their understanding. "Why are you telling us this?" Elder Voss asked. "Because we want the galaxy to understand something important," Webb replied. "We don't want to conquer you. We don't want to rule over other species. We just want to be left alone to live in peace." "Then why this terrible war?" "Because the Velcans killed our ambassador," Admiral Morgan said, her voice turning cold. "They murdered a man who came in peace, who offered friendship and cooperation. They broadcast his death across the galaxy as a sign of their strength." Webb activated another display. This one showed Velcan worlds, their military bases, their fleet positions. Every detail was perfectly mapped. "We've been watching them since the day they killed Ross," Webb said. "We know where every Velcan ship is located. We know their supply lines, their weaknesses, their patrol schedules. We could end this war in a single day if we wanted to." "Then why don't you?" Elder Voss asked. "Because we want the galaxy to understand the lesson," Webb replied. "The Velcans thought humans were weak because we preferred peace to war. They were wrong. We prefer peace because we're very, very good at war." At that moment, Webb's aide handed him a communication device. He listened for a moment, then smiled grimly. "Speaking of lessons," he said to the alien delegates, "would you like to see what happens when humans stop playing?" On the display, a live feed showed the Velcan fleet approaching the human colony of New Berlin, 50 Velcan warships, the largest force they had assembled yet. They expected to crush the human defenders and finally break Earth's spirit. Instead, they found something waiting for them that shouldn't have existed. A human dreadnought. The ship was massive, 3 miles long, covered in weapons that glowed with barely contained energy. It sat motionless in space like a sleeping giant. "This is Admiral Kane of the Terran battleship Vengeance," came a calm human voice over the communication channel. "Velcan fleet, you have entered human space with hostile intent. You have 1 chance to withdraw." The Velcan commander laughed over the radio. "1 ship against 50? You humans truly are insane." "We're not insane," Admiral Kane replied. "We're just very good at math." The Vengeance opened fire. What happened next would be talked about across the galaxy for generations. The human dreadnought didn't just fight the Velcan fleet, it dismantled them. Weapons that moved faster than light struck with surgical precision. Velcan ships exploded one after another, their shields and armor useless against technology they had never imagined. In 10 minutes, it was over. 50 Velcan warships destroyed or disabled. The Vengeance didn't have a single scratch on its hull. Elder Voss stared at the display in shock. "How is this possible?" General Webb turned off the hologram. "Elder Voss, your species learned to build faster ships, better computers, more efficient energy sources. We learned to build better weapons. Much better weapons. The galaxy must know about this," Ambassador Rell said nervously. "The galaxy will know," Admiral Morgan agreed. "That's the point. We want every species to understand that Earth offers friendship to those who come in peace. But to those who come in war," she gestured to the display showing the destroyed Velcan fleet. "Well, you've seen what happens to them." Elder Voss left the meeting with a heavy heart. He had come hoping to find a way to end the war. Instead, he discovered that humans were unlike any species the galaxy had ever encountered. They were the apex predators of space itself, and they had only just begun to hunt. The terrible truth was spreading across the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just another species among the stars. They were the species that would determine who else got to exist among the stars. And they were just getting started. War Prime Thok stood in his fortress on the Velcan homeworld of Velkos Prime. Outside his window he could see the capital city burning. His empire was collapsing around him, and he finally understood the magnitude of his mistake. It had been 6 months since he killed Ambassador Ross. 6 months of watching his fleets disappear one by one. 6 months of learning what it meant to fight a species that had turned warfare into perfection. "War Prime," his aide said nervously. "Subprime Kell requests an audience." Thok snarled. Kel had been leading the opposition to the war from the beginning. The moderate faction believed they should surrender and beg for mercy. Thok still believed the Velcans could win, but his confidence was cracking. "Send him in." Subprime Kel entered the chamber. Unlike Thok, who was covered in battle scars, Kel was unmarked. He had won his battles with words, not weapons. His red eyes showed intelligence rather than rage. "War Prime," Kel said calmly. "The humans have sent us a message." "Another demand for surrender?" Thok growled. "No, an invitation." Thok looked up surprised. "What?" Kel activated a holographic display. The image of General Webb appeared, looking tired but determined. "War Prime Thok." Webb's recorded message began. "Tomorrow at dawn, human forces will demonstrate our final capability. We call this Operation Last Chance. After you see what we can do, you will have one opportunity to end this war with honor. If you refuse, there will be no Velcan Empire left to refuse anything." The message ended. "Arrogant humans," Thok muttered, but his voice lacked its usual fire. The next morning, every sensor on Velcos Prime was pointed at the sky. The demonstration began at exactly dawn. First, the human fleet appeared. Not the small patrol ships the Velcans had been fighting, but the true Earth Navy. Hundreds of massive dreadnoughts materialized from nowhere, surrounding the Velcan homeworld completely. Each ship was larger than Thok's entire palace complex. "Impossible," whispered General Krex, who had been watching from the military command center. "Where did they all come from?" The answer came from Admiral Morgan's voice, broadcast on all Velcan frequencies. "Greetings, Velcos Prime. What you see around your world is just the first wave of Earth's response fleet. We have similar forces surrounding every major Velcan world simultaneously." On the planet's surface, panic began to spread. Citizens looked up to see the sky filled with alien warships, each one capable of destroying their entire civilization. But the humans weren't finished. "Phase 2, Admiral Morgan announced. Suddenly, the planetary defense grid that protected Velcos Prime began shutting down. Weapons platforms that had never been touched by enemy forces simply turned off. Shield generators that protected major cities powered down. The communication networks that connected the military command fell silent. "How?" Thok roared at his technicians. "How are they doing this?" Colonel Lisa Park's voice came over the emergency channels. "This is Colonel Park of Earth Special Operations. For the past 3 months, my teams have been on your world, in your systems, in your networks. We know everything about your technology because we've been controlling it." Thok felt his knees go weak. Human soldiers had been on Velcos Prime for months, moving freely through his capital, his military bases, his most secure facilities, and he had never known. "Phase 3, Admiral Morgan continued. The demonstration reached its climax. High above, the planet, a single human ship, smaller than the dreadnoughts but somehow more frightening, powered up a weapon that made the very air around Velcos Prime glow. "What you are seeing," came General Webb's voice, "is our Planet Killer class vessel final answer. The weapon you see charging has enough power to crack your world like an egg. We have 96 identical ships, each one positioned at a different Velcan world." The energy buildup was visible from the planet's surface. A light brighter than their sun began to form around the human weapon. Every Velcan who saw it understood that their species stood on the edge of extinction. Then, at the last moment, the weapons powered down. "However," Webb continued, "Earth does not wage war against entire populations. We wage war against those who choose war over peace. War Prime Thok, you have 1 hour to surrender yourself and your military leadership. In return, the Velcan people will be spared, and your empire can continue to exist under new leadership." Thok stood in his fortress, surrounded by the wreckage of his ambitions. His generals were already removing their armor, preparing to surrender. His own people were calling for his head. Subprime Kel approached him one last time. "War Prime, it's over. The humans have shown mercy by giving us this choice. Don't force them to show us what they do when mercy is refused." Thok looked out his window at the human fleet filling the sky. In 6 months, the humans had gone from seeming weak and defenseless to demonstrating they could destroy entire star systems without breaking a sweat. They had fought with strategy, technology, and capabilities that no other species possessed. How did we get it so wrong? Thok asked quietly. We judged them by our own standards, Kel replied. We thought a peaceful species must be weak. We didn't understand that they might be peaceful because they were too strong to need constant warfare. Thok removed his armor piece by piece, letting it fall to the floor. Each piece had been won in battle against other species who had challenged Velcan might. Now it all seemed meaningless. I surrender, he said simply. The words were broadcast across the galaxy. The mighty Velcan Empire, conquerors of dozens of worlds, surrendered completely to a species they had dismissed as weak farmers and merchants. 1 week later, Subprime Kel stood where Thok had once ruled. The new Velcan leadership had signed a peace treaty with Earth, not just ending the war, but establishing humans as protectors of this region of space. Elder Voss of the Altarians attended the ceremony on Velcos Prime. He watched as General Webb and the new Velcan leaders signed the agreement that would reshape galactic politics forever. General, Elder Voss said privately, your species could rule the entire galaxy now. Why settle for peace? Webb looked tired. The war had cost him greatly, even in victory. Elder Voss, we never wanted to rule anyone. We just wanted to live in peace and be left alone. Now finally, we can. But surely other species will challenge you in time. Webb smiled sadly. Elder, after what we've shown the galaxy, who would be foolish enough to try? The ceremony concluded with a memorial for Ambassador David Ross. Representatives from across the galaxy attended, laying flowers at a simple monument erected in his honor. The inscription read, "He came in peace. He died for peace. He achieved peace." Admiral Morgan stood beside the memorial as the ceremony ended. Think he would approve, sir? She asked Webb. I think Ross would be proud that his death prevented 1,000 wars, Webb replied. Sometimes the greatest diplomacy is showing exactly why diplomacy exists in the first place. As the delegates departed, the galaxy began a new era. Earth had become the ultimate peacekeepers, not through wisdom or negotiation, but through the simple understanding that some species are so dangerous that even their enemies prefer peace. The war was over. The real peace had just begun. And somewhere, in space, Ambassador David Ross's final mission was complete. He had brought peace to the galaxy after all, just not in the way anyone expected.